And welcome back to Daily Wrap. It's potluck time, part of the show. We go around the table, share our favorite stories of the day. We can't really decide who goes first, so I will flip for it. Heads, I go first. Tails, you go last. Tails, Rick goes last. You get the quarter. All right, very good. It's not real anyway. All right, so what am I talking about? Media, of course, my first love. And you may notice some headlines if you go to the Google machine after the show and not during, and put in Bernie Sanders surge, Bernie Sanders win, Bernie Sanders momentum, and you're going to find a lot of very favorable headlines for Mr. Sanders. It doesn't matter, conservative, liberal kind of outlet. Let's look at some headlines. When I just did this an hour and a half before the show, I simply put in Bernie Sanders Hillary, and here are the first four things that came up. Do we have the headlines, control room? We do. The Bernie Sanders surge. That's from The Hill. That's a conservative publication, of course. Let's go to our next one, and that is, who could resist Bernie Sanders' strange allure? And they use Sanders with the apostrophe right. People are afraid to put apostrophe SS, but that is correct, and that was Temansky, I believe. Yeah, it was. Okay, LA Times, what do they have to say? Why can't Bernie Sanders win? Yes. And finally, Vox, Ezra Klein's outfit. Looks a little like Noah, actually, Ezra, now that I think about it with glasses. The real reason Bernie Sanders is a threat to Hillary Clinton. That's for real deep thinkers over there at Fox. Or, excuse me, Vox, it rhymes. So, is the media, the question is, rooting for Bernie Sanders? And the answer is, people, of course they are. Who wants to watch Hillary Clinton just coast to the nomination, which, by the way, isn't for another year until they actually hold the convention, actually even more than a year. So we want to see a fight. And Bernie, quite frankly, has been on every network, every media outlet, making his case. You may disagree with a lot of it, but at least he's in front of a camera, unlike the person that he's challenging, and he's making arguments that are making people think a little bit. So I'll ask the panel now, open it up a little bit. Is the media rooting for Bernie Sanders to at least make this a horse race?
Well, they are at this point, yes, because it's going to help sell newspapers and TV shows, etc. It's ridiculous. You know, we're supposed to comment on what happens in these things, not try and create more exciting races. It's kind of silly, but yeah, it's exactly what's happening.
He's polling at 16% in Iowa right now, and Hillary's only, and I say only 57%, but that's pretty interesting considering that her competition basically is a 73-year-old pot-smoking socialist.
Right. I mean, there are some people who are saying she's going to have a fight for the nomination. I don't know who it's going to be against.
Yes.
Yeah, just today, but it's going to be, you know, I think that with, as far as Bernie Sanders is concerned, I think that the media just wants more ideas. They don't necessarily want Sanders, they want more ideas. They want people to
and they're out there. And Noah, before I get to you, you said that some people are saying that it could be a real fight. What kind of people?
Yeah,
well, let's hear from Paul Begala.
But just to be clear, you don't think that any of this has to do with the questions surrounding the Clinton Foundation funding or her lack of answers to the press, not wanting to talk to them for a month? You don't see any connection?
I don't see any connection with stiffing the press. Sorry, I don't mean to be mean, but there's anything voters hate more than politicians, it's the press.
Sure, but we are their conduit, so that if we're asking questions, she's answering them to the public.
It is much less that than just the mere fact that she's a politician running around. This is a 50-50. I have said this from the beginning. It's going to be a very, very tough race. She's going to have a real challenge for her party's nomination, although that doesn't show in the polls yet. It will, and when it does, let's not get our panties in a wad. Let's say, hey, Begala told us this was coming months ago. It's a tough country. It's a tough race. It's going to be very close.
Okay,
what
Noah.
in the world did he say?
He said it's a 50-50 proposition. The audio went out for a second, whether she will get the nomination or not. Is it 50-50?
No, it's something more like 80-20, but there is going to be a primary. There always was one, and I don't think this is a media creation. I think anybody who's to the left of Hillary Clinton was going to attract a fair amount of support from the far left of the progressive elements of the Democratic Party. It was going to be somebody, and why not a socialist?
Okay. Mr. Unger, you are up next. We will end it on that note.
Well, first, I feel before I jump into this, I should break the news that we've just received that Lincoln Chafee, who announced his candidacy for the Democratic nomination for president today, God only knows why, but apparently he's doing it on a platform of bringing the metric system to the United States. So everybody be aware of that, because this could become the big campaign issue.
Wow, we'll be calling it a Royale with cheese.
Thought you
Instead of a quarter pounder.
All right, but what I want to talk about is I want to propose a change in the debate. Right now, you know, we all have our ideological bends and we talk about big government versus small government. I want us to reframe this conversation. I want the conversation to become about competent versus incompetent government. Because yesterday we learned that the TSA brilliantly failed the test to see if they were protecting us as they're supposed to. Not very competent. Today we find out that the Pentagon has sent to 51 different laboratories around the country live anthrax, by the way, including to the Pentagon itself. Not exactly a paragon of competence. We know that EPA officials who were caught watching porn at work were promoted. Guys, I think we're out of time, so I'm not going to get too deeply into this, but let me just sum up by saying, let's talk about competence before we worry about size of government. It's not operating the way it should be.
Wow. So you can get promoted if you watch porn.
Apparently you can.
Okay, very good.
Does that work here?
Yay or nay is next. Back with more in just a moment.